Coaching, Thriving One.
Yes.
If this is your first time, my name is Lindsay.
I'm Matt.
And we are the co-founders of Coil Coaching. So anyway, any updates from us?
Yes.
First, we are going to be starting our programs on September 15th. Which is upcoming.
Yes.
And we have a few programs out there. The first one is Kingdomize One. And we have our Coil Coaching programs, which is our advanced leadership programs.
Right.
So we are both excited about it. We did it last year, our first one, and now we are relaunching it, new and improved. And so we want to invite you to check out our website, coilcoaching.com/programs. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email us at info@coilcoaching.com and reach out to us.
So exciting. Yeah. So it starts on September the 5th. And then that's when our first teaching is going to go out. And then September 15th is when our first meeting.
Our live.
Yeah, our live Zoom meeting will be happening with the group. So exciting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do it with a group,
Yes.
Do it with your friends, your family, your church. This is all online, and so, but very interactive. And but there's a little bit of community in there, connection and activation and growing together. So we're really excited about that. And also update on Coil Coaching Women. We just had our August online gathering last Friday. And it was amazing. We tapped into the power of empathy, which of course is also, we discussed that in one of our podcasts. So we invite you to check that out. And if you want to join Coil Coaching Women, you can also visit our website, coilcoaching.com/women. Yeah. And we invite you, everybody, if you're a woman, join us, join our community. It's an ever-growing
woman
online community. And we've had one local gathering, which we had about 50 women come from Redding. And another good news about Coil Coaching Women is we are going to be having our first in-person retreat here in Redding, California. And it's going to be in October 21st and 22nd. So that's a Friday and a Saturday. So the plan is Friday evening and the whole day Saturday. So more on that, we will announce that later on. So if you are like, yes, I really want to join the retreat, book those dates, and wherever you are, come join us.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
And we have do you have anything else, like any announcements? No,
that's it.
Well, let's dive into our podcast today. It's exciting. We're gonna be talking about building your life team.
Yes, so good. Yeah, this is a fun topic, and you'll kind of hear as we kind of share some of our story behind kind of how we've been doing this. But what I want to ask you is, who's on your life team?
That's good.
And the reason for this is, I know just as we've grown as individuals, we've grown in a couple, in ministry and business, etc. We've always needed some form of support in our life, and in the way of people.
Yes.
So being a support and also receiving some form of support. And when I think about the word support means to bear the weight of for somebody, or to give assistance to. And it's so key that as you're going throughout life and as you're growing and you're progressing, I would say, in the seasons of your life, from a single to a married, from a married to having kids, to, from high school to college, from college into your profession, and different professions as you grow and have different seasons. I mean, we've had different professions throughout our lifespan. It's so key to have support in those spaces for you to actually move forward in success. Because I know there's times where I haven't had support, and it's made the journey real difficult, or I didn't know I needed support, or I wasn't humble enough to receive support.
Different things.
Right.
Yes.
And these are like life lessons, the things we learn. And I've discovered over my years, though, that having different types of people in my life or in our life has accelerated and has made our journey more beautiful,
Yeah.
more valuable, less frustrating. Come on.
Yeah.
And so we want to kind of chat about, what does it look like to build a support team? What does it look like to build your, what I've been calling here, a life team?
Yeah.
And kind of what do some of those things look like? So I had the privilege in my life to have mentors in my life, starting out in junior high school. I was obviously I was going to church and I was going to youth group, and the youth group I was a part of had a really solid mentoring system or discipleship system. And I always had not the pastor, but some kind of leader within the youth group. And normally the ones that I had were in their 20s or into their like 30s and 40s that were speaking into my life. And so these youth leaders would oversee maybe like 5 to 10 youth. So I always had an older guy in my life. And in that experience, I discovered the value for having different roles and support roles in my life. In that season of my life, junior high school, I was a bit of a knucklehead. I was going through all the typical teenage things. I was a pretty good kid in a lot of ways, and then a knucklehead in other ways. And so the things I remember the most about my high school, junior high years, I don't remember the youth services or the church services I went to, or the topics even. I can't recall topics, but what I remember is the people that invested into my life, especially when I was a knucklehead, especially when I wasn't making great choices. I remember their patience, I remember their consistency, and I remember their influence. And I would say that the reason I've done the things that I've done throughout my life, so I would say in the area of helping people, support, missions work, ministry work, it's because of the influence of these gentlemen in my life. I can think of many of them. One of my mentors, Larry Keller, George Negretti, Tony. These individuals, Doug. I can list one person after another that spent time with me and sowed into my life. And it really, apart from my family, my parents, it really developed me into the man that I am today. And so I want to share a little story about us. I don't know if you have anybody that you want to share about. What mentors or what people specifically in your life stood out to you.
Well, I didn't grow up in church, like the normal Christian church. I was born and raised Catholic in the Philippines. And even then, like I could pinpoint, like as you were talking, like certain people who were there for me, who developed me as a leader. Like it wasn't just in the spiritual aspect. There's also like in the leadership area, in the life area, like as we are talking about right now, people that came alongside me, the people that supported me. I could remember teachers, coaches, like I was in sports. And I remember my coach, and I remember my trainer, and I remember my team, and so we were in a Catholic school. And so it was really interesting, like what that did to my confidence, because I think one of the things, like as we're talking about building your life team, it's like it affects you in a certain way, not just in your character and integrity, but also in your confidence and stepping into what you're passionate about. So now putting into like when I got saved, when I was 18, 19 years old, I can also remember like certain people in my life, like my aunt was my youth pastor, and I remembered some of the youth leaders that rallied around me, like I would say I was pretty much also a good kid, but
you're probably a better kid than me.
Nobody's perfect, right? Like we all
totally
have obviously some flaws, weaknesses and stuff. And most of the things that I would remember about my leaders, my mentors, whether in life, leadership and spiritual aspect, is that they were there for me, you know, when what you would call, you say, like, my knucklehead moments. Or in my case, like when I felt like I have failed, like I would remember moments where I thought I have failed myself, failed people. I remembered people, including you, like you were one of those
Right.
people, like late in the later on years, you know, in my early 20s.
I like to
that
think that I taught you everything that you know,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, it was like, wow, like the like when my confidence was low and when I was at my weakest point, um leaders like yourself
Mm,
and my aunt and other teachers that I've had, my mom, my dad, they really stepped up and be like, in my weakest moments, like they held me.
yeah.
And I think that's sometimes like what I've learned in building your life team is not
Mm,
just about how articulate you are in what you say or your experience, but really is about also holding each other.
yeah.
So
There's
yeah.
that empathy piece coming out, right?
Oh, right, yes. Since we talked about it last time.
I know, right? Yeah, I think I was listening to you talk to, I was, you know, when you're in high school, when you're in that
Mhm.
younger age, you kind of have these automatic
Right.
mentors in your life, right? Like for
Mhm.
me, my parents went to church. I was in a youth group, not necessarily because I wanted to, but you know, I went because it was there and there was something provided for me. But once you leave, I would say like college,
Yeah.
there there comes a season of maturity where now you have to find, or you
Mhm.
have to, especially as you grow in different spaces, you have to find
Yeah.
mentors.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm talking to both groups, but more specifically towards as you're out on your own. So out of college, out of those
Mhm.
automatic mentor spaces, that you actually are actively pursuing
Yeah.
and creating um, connection with people that can speak into your life, but not just speaking into your life. So I want to share an example of
Mhm.
something. So because mentoring and for me discipleship, or I would say also mentoring people was such a
Mhm.
it's a big part of my life. So I like we do this coil coaching thing, right?
Right.
Like I
Yes,
love
yes,
sewing into
yes.
people and developing
Mhm.
people's lives. But I've been very intentional with having this circle of people around me. And so I kind of want to mention, you know, what
Mhm.
does your team look like? What's your
Yeah.
life team look like?
Right.
So when we got married, something that was special that we did, something that
Mhm.
that was a big deal for me in our wedding, was we had three uh, representations of people in our life, and we called these people our honor guards.
Yeah.
And these were the people that were significant, and they signified how I wanted to live our life in
Mhm.
relationship. And so there's three type of people. There was one, the first one was the people that I was sowing into. So I'd say
Yes.
maybe people that are younger than me,
Yeah.
or people that I was discipling. Like I
Yeah.
always wanted to have one or more of those type of people
Mhm.
in my life that I'm sowing into. So it's just like it's
Yeah.
outflow. And then there's the second one is the people that I'm doing life with.
Yeah. Your peers. I think
Yeah,
we
so
call them
my
our
peers, who am I running with?
Mhm.
Who can I laugh with? Who can I buddy up with?
Mhm.
Who can I say, hey, I see you're going through the same season, the
Yeah.
same rough patch maybe that I am, or the same celebration. So maybe having kids, or
Mhm.
transferring into a job, leaving for a house, you know, all those kind of things,
Right.
in adulting.
Right.
And then the third one is who's speaking into my life.
Yeah.
And so,
Mentors.
yeah,
I like
mentors.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see like these represent
Mhm.
like the simple way to say this is my life team.
Yeah.
This is who I'm running with. This is
That's good.
who I can lean on, and they
Mhm.
can lean on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's really good because we both had that. So
mhm,
instead of, just to explain a little bit background, like, so instead of having a best man, you know, and a maid of honor, and we decided that, okay, we needed something that represented who we are and
right.
how we want to live our life, you know. So we were pretty intentional about it. I could remember
Mm,
us meeting with these people, you know, like the process of choosing them. So this is kind of like a choosing and an acceptance, you know, because
yeah.
we chose, you know, we prayed about it, we processed it, you know, we chose the people who were going to represent each of this, the sewing into the people we were mentoring. So we were mentoring, discipling a lot of people. So we chose someone that we felt like could represent that group of people. And then the second one is the doing life with our peers. Obviously we have friends, we have a lot of friends, but like the process of selecting, like the people who were discipling and mentoring, and the people that we have, our peers, and the people who are mentoring us, we were pretty intentional about it. And we sat down with them, and I remember that we were explaining it to them. But of course, there's this also the process of them accepting that, because there's a giving and receiving. And I felt like it was a beautiful aspect of our wedding, that now I realize it now, like, because it was etched in our wedding, that now we find that wherever we go, like we've been married 16 years. So we found that wherever we've gone, like we always have this three scenarios going on with whatever we're doing. So I'm really, really thankful for that, because I know that Matt and I, we're really very intentional about it, as a part of building our life community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of intentionality.
Sure. Yes.
Right. And it sometimes it could be a personality trait, life experience, but developing this mindset, I guess is the best way to say it, is like, who am I looking for? Who do I need in my life? And for those of you that are listening, if this is the first time you've heard this kind of concept, or you're like, man, how do I do that? Like, we're just going to kind of share and talk about how we've done it. Like who's in our life, what kind of groups do we have,
right?
Seasonal shift with different people.
Yes.
I think like the key thing in moving into saying like, okay, I need to build my life team. I need to build those who are running with me, those that are supportive, and those that I'm sewing into. I think there's a phrase that I've heard from The Rock. He's saying this a lot lately.
I love it.
And from Bill Johnson, I heard this same phrase. And this phrase was, stay humble, stay teachable.
It's good.
Thank you, Rock. Thank you, Bill. It's an old saying. It's probably been said way before them, but it's a really true thing. Like, as we're growing and maturing, life, when you're in a state of growing, there is a sense of life that's happening. And one of the ways to do that is to stay humble, and to stay teachable. And I think it's really key to recognize that I don't know everything. With everything that I've done in my life experience, I'm about to turn 44 this year.
Yay.
Like I don't know it all. And even on that topic, I'm reminded I met with one of my interns about a couple of months ago, and he's married to a professional athlete, and so his wife, and we were talking about, just the professional athlete world and mindsets and how you progressed in your individual sport. And he said something that she told him that really like hit me, was she said, I turned a corner and really started progressing when I realized that every season in her sporting industry, she had to realize I didn't know anything.
Right.
And this helped her, as he's describing this, helped her progress. Because if you stick with what you know, then you end up plateauing.
Right.
And you kind of have to not throw, what you do know out. It's like, how do I have space to see things differently?
Yeah.
And as I go into this next season, do I want to keep doing the old things and stay plateaued, or do I want to continue to grow?
Yeah. There is a saying that as you were talking, like I remember this, that and I share this with all of my clients in any season, especially if they're transitioning or coming out of one season into the next, and I tell them like, hey, don't be afraid to embrace the unknown. No one, because no one starts out a season as an expert.
Right.
No one starts out in a job as an expert unless you were hired as the expert, consultant. That's different. But when you are stepping into something new, that means it's something that you have never done before.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, some of our clients would get frustrated because, it's not what it used to be. So the thing is, the frustration is that you're trying to take what was into what is now or what is the next.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to actually lay it down, and so you can actually have room to take on the new thing, and that's where the humility and the teachability comes in,
Right.
because you have to be humble enough to say like, hey, I don't know what's
Mhm.
in front of me. Like if you've never used a cell phone before, like the first time I've seen a cell phone in the 90s, like the text and everything, like that was I know that was I'm dating myself.
Dating.
The it was, I had to be humble enough to be like, hey Lindsay, even though you're a smart person with other areas, like learning that you've done, this is kind of like new for you. And you
Mhm.
kind of have to stay humble and stay teachable in order for you to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So you don't start out as an expert. Everybody starts out as a beginner when there's something new in front of you. So
Yeah, that's
give
good.
yourself also, for you, it's just like, oh, but I'm already humble and teachable. Good for you. But, give yourself also that grace to be like, hey, I'm going to be learning something new here. And I'm probably going to make mistakes,
Yeah.
and that's probably a part of also as you're building your life team, is that it's not going to be perfect
Yeah.
all the time right
Yeah.
away. So
So
I
good.
thought like that
So
was
good.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. When I think about like humility and being teachable, one of the things about being teachable is recognizing that you have limitations,
Mhm.
right? And the reason you need to learn something or be taught something is because there's a limitation or there's a wall.
Yeah.
And kind of one of the things I talk with my clients about a lot of times is recognizing like if you're hitting a wall, it doesn't mean it's a place where you're stopping or you can't get
Mhm.
by. I see walls in our life as like walking upstairs.
Right.
So if I was this mouse walking up real life stairs, right? I get to it, it feels like a wall, but actually it's an invitation to ascend.
That's good.
And there's times where it's really hard and you got to work to ascend.
Mhm.
And there's times where you hit that plateau and it's going good. Okay, okay, I got my breath. I'm moving
Right.
forward, and then I hit another wall. I'm like, oh, there's always walls. Where
Mhm.
I'm like, it's actually all an invitation to ascend.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think about it in the scripture, Psalms 24, it's
Mhm.
around 3 to 6 in there. It says, who may ascend the hill of the Lord? Those with clean
Clean
hands
hands.
and a pure heart. And
Mhm.
the beautiful thing about that verse says a lot, but I'm going to talk about the ascending part is like God's inviting us on a
Mhm.
journey of maturity.
That's good.
And one of the key elements, if you haven't read the Bible enough, is humility. It's like
Mhm.
one of the first things that Jesus teaches his disciples when he talks about the
Right.
Beatitudes in Matthew 5, is this idea of humility, is
Mhm.
to be teachable. And what does that mean? So when I think about my own personal life and as I'm growing, and we've been doing our business here for about 2 years or so
Mhm.
or more, and uh, I'm always reaching like these limitations in my skill set,
Right.
be it in the
Yes.
area of communicating our value, working with clients, a client with something that I haven't dealt with yet. So how do I navigate and help them through that? I
Mhm.
I have to have a mindset of like I need some form of support,
Yeah.
and it comes through many different ways. Today we're talking about like how are you finding the people that you need
Mhm.
on your team, your
Right.
life team, those that
Mhm.
you're sowing into and those
Mhm.
that you are receiving one.
Yes.
And so let's see what else. When I'm one of the things I mentioned earlier was that there's a lot of intentionality
Mhm. I mentioned
apart.
that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of intentionality that's required in
Yeah.
reaching out, and sometimes you need to know what you need before you look for who's going to
Right.
help you,
Right. Yeah.
right? And
There's a two
so
sides of the coin, I
mhm,
guess, in that one too. Knowing what you know, need to know what you need
right,
before reaching out. That's a healthy portion of it. And also sometimes, like, if you don't know, um, just reach out to somebody.
right,
It's like a doctor. Like if you there was something wrong in your body, and some of us are a little bit more conscious about that. And so we know, like, oh, I have a cough, I have a fever, I have this. And so you go to the doctor and you tell the doctor. But sometimes you're like, yeah, I have pain here on my side and I don't know why. And you're like, yeah, I should go to the doctor. So there's two sides of the coin, so wherever spectrum you are in, whether you know specifically or you don't know, just the first step really is to just reach out to
yeah,
somebody, whether it's a spiritual thing, in your emotional or your physical aspect of your life.
yeah, yeah. So that would lead us into like As you're thinking about the areas of your life,
Mhm.
and I love strategy, and so I always kind of think about it from a strategic point of view, is like how do you cover your bases?
Yeah.
What are the key areas? And so I'm just going to kind of list off some of the core areas that I know
Yeah,
that I
for
look
sure.
for in my own personal growth, where I want to continue to grow in.
Mhm.
Um, and so I would say, first of all, your spiritual life, for those
Mhm.
of you that, have a spiritual life, believe in Christ,
Mhm.
like, that's an area where you want to continue to grow. And a lot of times I think I can see, and I've observed in people in different ages, that it's easy, you can plateau and get
Mhm.
comfortable,
Yeah.
and just rely upon maybe what the
Mhm.
pastor's saying. But there's this invitation from God, like he wants to know us more.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
because we're not perfect, that's an invitation from him to continue to grow somehow. So
Mhm.
who's in your life and I would say those that are mentors in your life, these are
Yeah.
people that will challenge you.
Mhm.
These people will not just keep you accountable, and I don't always like that word, but who's going to challenge you in your life to step
Mhm.
forward into
Yeah.
the more. So there's a spiritual area. Obviously, I would say the soul, or the
Yeah.
psychological space of our life. So
Yeah.
our emotions and our mental, it's a
Mhm.
huge space.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of clients, and in my own life, because I'm old enough now,
Mhm.
they get towards their mid 30s to mid 40s, and people experience what they call midlife crisis.
Right.
And
Yes.
the reason people are experiencing midlife crisis is because there is what I call mental and emotional constipation.
Ah, yes.
So it's just a buildup of,
Yeah.
of difficulties, of pain, and
Mhm.
even forms of trauma
Yeah.
that have weighed upon your mind and
Mhm.
your heart,
Yeah.
that hasn't been processed through.
Yes. And it's very actually also related to your physical body
Yeah.
too. So that's why it's so important to go after those things. Like I've had some clients where they're like, "Oh, been having some, stomach aches or gut issues and stuff." And a lot of those, without going into details, like I could probably talk about that too, and you can as well. But there's a connection between
Yes.
unprocessed pain
Hmm.
or unresolved trauma in your
Yeah.
life. And because most of those things happen in the childhood and in your development years growing up, like there's this thing what we call like shoving them down, right?
Right.
Like, right? And you can only do so much of that. And so you go into your mid 30s and mid 40s and you're like, I am so constipated right now. And you're like,
Yeah.
there's pain, there's different unknowns that are like, why am I this? Why is this? And why can't I relate to this? And so there's many other things.
Right.
So I believe that this is like, a word for somebody that's going
Yes.
to be watching this or listening to this. Like, if you're like in your in an area, in a season in your life where like, gosh, I can't pinpoint just one thing that's wrong. Like I
Yeah.
know there's something wrong, and I know that I need help, or I know that I need to reach out to somebody, but I don't know. Like there's not one thing, that if you can't pinpoint just one thing, I bet you that's a culmination of a lot of things. And I want to invite you, to
Mm.
reach out to somebody, that there is someone there out there for you that can help you. And if you're like, I don't know where to start, we're here. We're an email away. Send us an email, info@coilcoaching.com, and reach
Definitely.
out.
Definitely.
We can help you process that, process that emotional um,
You can call it
constipation.
constipation,
Yes.
baggage, whatever you call it. It's
Hmm.
just there. There's
Yes.
a pressure, and it comes from the stress of life too.
Hmm.
Like it all plays into it, and it builds up. And it's
Yeah.
like, how do I relieve this? How do I bring resolve to this? Having somebody to help you. And I know, I know specifically, and I got into
Right.
this. We got into this line of work
Hmm.
specifically from my perspective, due to my emotional and just mental
Yeah.
buildup
Hmm.
over the years. And I got to a point where I was dealing with anxiety,
Hmm.
um, and it got really intense, and it just
Hmm.
how to process through that. And so,
Yeah.
around 7 years ago or so, I had got, I'm like, dude, I need help. I need some
Yeah.
support,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
system I have now, it's been doing the best that it could, but now it's time for me to level up.
Ah, there's that word again.
Level
Level
up.
up.
Let's go to the next level.
Yes.
And so I got a counselor, and at the
Hmm.
same time, because I was deep, my mental health was affecting my physical health.
Hmm.
I also got a nutritionist, and
Yeah.
I started on a journey of developing that space.
Mhm.
And it's so needed, and everybody's different what their
Yeah,
needs are. So
absolutely.
understanding your limitations, understanding when you're hitting a wall or you
Mhm.
feel stuck, needing that extra support.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's potentially, if you haven't been able to move past something for a while, it
Mhm.
means that those that are around you have done their best
Yeah.
to get you to where you're at, and now you need somebody else.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
And
I think
I
so
probably
too.
want to park on that for a moment here
Mhm.
and just talk about, like, relationships a lot of time are just seasonal.
Mhm.
Like, there, I have
Yes.
friends
Yes.
that I've known for from my
Mhm.
childhood and or from my college years that I still am connection with. There you go. Facebook helped me out with that.
Facebook.
And I connect with once a year maybe. But they've moved on with their lives. I've moved on with my
Right.
life. And I would
Right.
say every 5 to definitely 10 years,
Mhm.
my friend group and or my life team
Mhm.
has shifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's difficult a lot of times is when you have a mentor that means the world to you and they taught you
Yes.
so much, and you actually got trained up at the level where they're at,
Mhm.
and you you're kind of now like equals, even though your age might be different. I know
Mhm.
I experienced this around every 5 years roughly. I would have a mentor in my life because I was seeking them out. I was inviting them in on my journey, and I would arise to a space and a level
Right.
where they were at.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for each one of those mentors.
Mhm.
But because I'm so loyal, it's so hard for me to
Oh,
transition
right.
into looking for something that I'm needed,
Mhm.
that's even higher.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's held me up in
Right.
that stuck stage.
Mm.
And so if that's you, I want to encourage you, like,
Yeah.
we don't, by looking for somebody else to be a voice and a mentor in our life, doesn't mean that we're devaluing or dishonoring those that have
Absolutely.
been that forever, been a
Yeah.
parent, a spiritual parent, a mentor in our
Mhm.
life. We have to be able to let go.
Mhm.
Now, not let go of the relationship, because you can hold on to relationships,
Right.
but what do you need next?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so in every season, I've had to be intentional to find, to seek out, to ask
Mhm.
God, to
Yeah.
pray for it, but also then to be
Yeah.
intentional and to reach out.
Yeah.
'Cause I can pray all I want, if I'm not reaching out, activating
Mhm.
my prayer, my hope
Yeah.
into faith, then
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. It's not going
That's
to
really good.
materialize,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I got
I
on my.
think
Go
no,
ahead. You gonna say
I think
something?
it's healthy, because it's like relationships, if
Mm,
they are organic, they go through a cycle,
yeah,
and it's not about, like, it's not every relationship has to end badly. Like, it just may be like a different type of season.
right.
And sometimes, surprisingly, the Lord will bring back that relationship in a later years,
Hmm.
because I've been surprised myself,
Sure.
like, I've gone through mentors from when I was high school, college and stuff, and these are like my life leadership mentors, and because of Facebook again, like, I've outgrown them at that certain age of my life, but at the same time, like, oh, memories would come up and then we get reconnected again. It may
Right.
not be the same as it was before, but the value of the relationship is still there. You
Yeah.
feel the memories, you're thankful. So that's a place of being grateful and thankful for your time
Right.
that they've spent, still honoring them with the time and the effort that they've spent with you. Because it's the same thing for us. We've mentored and discipled so many people,
Yeah.
and our relationships with our kids, quote unquote kids, are not the same as it was before. And it's not a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
actually, for us, it's like, we're so proud of you for where you're at now. Some of them have surpassed what we have gone through, and it's because, like, they have found that confidence,
Yes.
the confidence to walk in what God has given them in front of them, and we have taught them to pursue that with
Mm,
all of their hearts. Definitely like what our motto is, like our theme,
yeah.
like life to the utmost. That was our youth ministry
Right.
back then, and we were encouraging a lot of kids to just, get outside of their mental box, like
Yeah.
what was possible and what's the impossible become possible. So it is like a flow thing. Some of our
Definitely.
relationships are going to stay the same, but some of them are not. So it's just like also a matter of what your season is like
For
right now.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Oh, we got on our soapbox. That was
Oh,
a
I
good one. I
know.
love that
Yes.
one. So we're talking about like key
Mhm.
elements or key areas of your life, like who should you have in your life? What are you looking for? I mentioned this already. Like there comes a point in your life where you recognize, especially as you get older, you recognize the need for your body.
Yeah.
So I mentioned I had a nutritionist, and I've had friends that were also like not coaches, but they were like physical,
Therapist.
not physical therapists, people that do workout stuff.
Oh, personal trainers.
Personal trainers. And at different seasons, I've pulled
Mhm.
upon those to actually help me. And it's so key.
Yeah.
Like taking care of your body is a huge thing. Not only does the Bible say that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit,
Yes.
but for you to function at your best level, or I would call be the best version of yourself,
Mhm.
actually having somebody and allowing someone to speak in your life in that area is huge.
Right.
So I love this topic. I could talk about it forever. One of the other areas is financial. Financial is a
Mhm.
great place to have somebody in your life
Right.
that can speak into your life,
Yeah,
especially if you're moving
definitely.
towards growing up.
Adulting.
Adulting. Yeah, wanting to get a home, like how to save
Yeah,
money. What does it
absolutely.
look like to
Invest.
save? Lindsay is my
Invest.
mentor in that area. She's got a degree in accounting and management. And so she's been such an influence in my life, other people from my parents to other
Yeah, your parents
mentors.
were great too.
Just like what do we need to do next in what
Mhm.
season of our
Yeah.
life?
Yeah.
And to not just float through life, but like what's my plan?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then more similar towards the obvious would be like professionally, like
Mhm.
so Lindsay and I transitioned out of the nonprofit
Mhm.
world, and we were pastors for years, and we transitioned into doing our own business.
Mhm.
And getting into that space, I didn't really know very much at all.
Mhm.
Nothing. My space was more like I worked as an employee for a nonprofit or a
Right.
church. And so uh, one of my prayers and one of my intentionalities was, Lord, I want to be around other entrepreneurs because that's what
Mhm.
we were doing. We were starting our coaching business,
Right.
pursuing what we felt we were supposed to do next in our life, and God, like so faithful, not even within a week,
Mm.
um, connected me with a gentleman who was a part of a men's group of entrepreneurs.
Right.
At that time, there was 5 of them. I ended up being the last one, and I ended up
Yay.
was able to go and be a part of that. The only reason I was able to be invited to that was because I was being intentional.
Right.
So one of the things that I started doing as a part of my business was pursuing relationships.
That's good.
So some of the weeks because I work from home, I would hang out in the coffee shop. So if I would connect with people and talk with them there, I would gear up conversation towards
Mhm.
connections there. People in the church space and other places that people were business people. And
Yeah.
so this was actually another gentleman who went to the same school as my daughters.
Yeah.
Their daughters went to the same school, I believe it was. And anyways, I pursued relationship with him. And from that,
Mhm.
created this connection into a men's group, which been meeting with for over a year now, almost every single
Wow. Yeah.
Saturday, 7 a.m. Such a blessing.
Yes.
But this is a part, they have become an integral part of not just my community, but our community.
Mhm.
The wives also now meet
Right.
together.
Yeah.
It's like this huge blessing. But
Mhm.
it all has to do with our intentionality and knowing what we need
Yeah. Absolutely.
and being humble to say, I need some help.
Yes.
And I know within this group of men, we all kind of specialize in different areas. So one of the things we do is like, hey, where do you need help in that area? Where do you need input, suggestions, etc. And being open to be able to do that and to elicit help or
Mhm.
support from them.
Yeah.
And then kind of one of the final ones I'll mention here as we begin to wrap up is relationships.
Yeah.
Like anybody
good.
that's married for at least a year after the honeymoon stage wears off, know that when two come together, they begin to rub. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't call those rubs are to polish us, but nobody likes rubbing. But the reality is, we both have limitations,
Mhm.
be it hangry, okay, at the end of
Right.
the day, being tired, having health stuff,
Uh-huh.
working through trauma, pain, triggers, you know, disagreements, etc. Like getting support in the area of your marriage, if you're in a relationship, is super key.
Yeah.
important. And we've been blessed to have friendships that are older
Mm-hmm.
than us that have been able to speak into and sow into our lives in the area of our relationship.
Yeah.
And that's so key. And then also, what does it look like once you start having kids,
Oh yeah.
right?
That's good.
And so these are all like key, I would say, core areas
Yeah.
for developing your life team. So we already talked about having different people in different
Mhm.
seasons. And I would say sometimes it's not easy to find somebody.
Right.
So let's say you're like, man, I really need this area. I've been praying. I've been intentional. I've been trying reaching out. I haven't found anybody.
Yeah.
Well, then that just tells you if there's a limitation, that just tells you that there's time for you to invest.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Well, it looks like investing money. It looks
Mhm.
like investing time.
Yeah.
And so like for me, when I was needing help psychologically in the area of using a counselor, etc., like
Mhm.
there was an investment that was required for me to go to the next level.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is like a really key thing because it's not just an investment to say the word investment, it's an investment in yourself
Yeah.
because you're valuable
Yeah.
and you're important. And sometimes that investment will look like investing into doing a program. I know
Mhm.
we've both done ministry schools in the
Right.
past. I've done college. She's done college. I've done Bible college. And so sometimes it looks like an investment into a specific program.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about programs or having somebody work with you in a specific area, so say maybe like a business coach
Mhm.
or a health coach or a counselor or something in the specific area where you want to grow, it's an acceleration.
Right. Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're on that stair, you're hitting the wall of that next stair and you need to ascend. And it's like you
Mhm.
step onto an escalator or an elevator and it just whoop, it just
Yeah.
takes you right out.
Yeah.
Instead of
Absolutely.
you like struggling and trying to find the footholds in each part of that stairway to make your way up.
Mhm.
Programs, investing into your personal development
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And I know, like, yeah, there's so much to dive into this topic. We may do a part two if you wanted to, but just make sure that there is an action plan, like
Yeah.
that you are actively pursuing it, and so obviously our podcasts are more like an encouragement and maybe a few things here and there that you can do, a DIY, do it yourself, but highly suggest, like if you want to level up and if
Mm,
you want to be intentional, there has to be like an investment on your part and our
right.
part, like same thing with us. So we want to encourage you, as we end this podcast, like check out our programs, take some time, go to our website, take some time and kind of read up on the descriptions of the programs. If you're in a place where like, yeah, I do really want to do that. I want to find a community. I want to
Mm,
find somewhere to belong. I want to find a place where I can invest
yeah.
my money, my time, my resources into, okay? Not just like what you can do on the outside, but also investing into your inward work
Yeah.
that would affect your relationship with yourself, how you view yourself, your
Right.
relationship with your friends and family and coworkers. So we invite you to just go and read up on our coil coaching programs and see like if there's something that's like, oh, I want to do this,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's one of the things that I want to encourage you with.
Yeah. And also, even if you want to just do what we call a discovery session with us,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Yes.
man, who can I trust to hold my story
Right.
and be with me in that and to direct me to what I actually need. A lot of times, like when people just come and coach with us or do a discovery session,
Yeah.
we can either direct them to how we can support them or how one of our resources and in our network can also support them in a specific area. And so
Yeah.
sometimes a discovery session is powerful for that.
Exactly.
So we want to encourage you. We're starting our programs
Mhm.
in September 5th. Excited about that. If you want to get trained as a coach, life consultant, or grow, develop as as an individual, we've got programs for you. So that will end us for this time. I just want to
Yay.
speak a blessing over each one of you as you are listening, that you are valuable, that you are important and you are worthy to be invested into. And that there's a group of people and there's individuals who want to sow into your life. And not only that, but there's people that are waiting for you on the other side of your risk and to stepping out and mentoring or to support or to encourage others. So we bless you and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.